Hello students, welcome to KENE'S Educare, a group of KENE solutions. This is part 5 of lesson number 7, Diversity in Living Organism. Okay, what is the name of the lesson? Diversity in Living Organisms. So here we are discussing about the various types of life form that is existing on the earth. We have different kinds of plants, we have different types of animals, we have different types of human beings as well, right? And how are we like identifying each and every human being around us? Because we all have a specific name, we belong to a specific family, right? And this is how people are identifying us. You know your friend because you know their family, you know to which caste and to which religion that your friend belongs to, right? So this is how like there are different kinds of bacteria, different kinds of plants, different kinds of animals. They also have their family, class, order, genus, species, kingdom, right? So I hope that you know who has now given us the five kingdom classification. Yes, who has given that the five kingdom classification that we are discussing under this lesson, diversity in living organism. So Robert, or you can say R.H. Whitaker, he is the one who has given us the five kingdom system of classification. And this is one important thing which we need to keep in mind, that there were various scientists, there were various researchers who were working on these different animals. Now suppose I have to do one experiment with respect to a microorganism. Okay, so now what happens, I have to start from the initial state. I will have to find it out ki what kind of nutrition the microorganism is having, at what type of climatic condition that microorganism requires, what is the temperature, then how does it look like under the microscope. I will have to figure it out everything. So this was a chaos because we have more than 10 billion species that is existing on our earth, and from that 10 billion we are only aware of 1 or 2 million species. So that's, now we have a lot more to cover on, right? अभी बहुत सारे ऐसे organisms हैं which can be finded out. And earlier when the term microorganism, when the term bacteria, viruses, fungi, this were used, people were very much threatened about these things. लोग इससे डरते थे that भाई बैक्टीरिया है बाबा, वायरस है, it is going to make you sick. Okay, no, this is a microorganism, this is going to be, this is very much bad for us, stay away from it. But as and when we are developing, the technology has been developing, the researchers have put on their effort and finding out the usefulness of them as well. So it is not like that all the microorganism, all the fungi, all the bacteria, all the viruses, they are bad for us. It is not like that. They are useful as well to us. It's just we need to put that into a specific direction and they will become useful to us. The harmful microorganism is within seconds, once you find where we can use that microorganism, it is going to be useful to us. So it is not like the diversity, the different life forms that exist on our planet Earth. Okay, all the life forms have some or the other specialities. Okay, so now in the last class we have already discussed on, like we know that R.H. Whitaker sir, he has given this five kingdom classification to us, right? And can you name the five kingdoms now? Because as we are on to part 5, you should be aware of the kingdom names and the division of the plants at least. Okay, I know that remembering the phylum, all the 10 phylum names is not that easy. That is why I'm not asking you as well, because we have not even started that, right? So I just want two things from you all. I want the five kingdoms. Okay, what did I want? Five kingdoms I want, as well as along with this five kingdoms, I want the names of the division that comes under kingdom plantae. Okay, so if possible you can take a note, like you can write the name of the five kingdom, as well as the, as I told you in the last part also, that you have to practice writing the names of all the divisions that comes under kingdom plantae, because the spellings are a bit difficult, different. It can be different, like difficult for you to write, because why it is difficult for you, because we don't come across such words, right? And that is the reason you, if you write it and you practice it, that is very much important. Okay. So what did we started, like when we started the lesson, there is an evolution term that we have discussed on, right? What is evolution? See, evolution is something that is the change that we are going through, right? If we are talking about the biodiversity term, so the plants are also evolving some or the other, how the shape, the structure, the length, the hormones that the plants are having, they have also evolved a lot, right? We have medicinal use, and instead we are using each and every part of the plant. Plants do not have, or trees do not have any such part which is waste for them. Okay, so we are using each and every part of the plant, even the waste of the plant, that like for the plants those are the waste, but for us it is, you can say, an important natural thing that we are using at some or the other place. Like the gums are the waste of the plant, but we are using the gums in day to day activities, right? So this is how, as and when we know that we have a huge amount of biodiversity that is existing, this huge amount of biodiversity that is existing is also beneficial to us in more than 100,000 millions way. Okay, it's just we need to find out ki where we can use it. Even the harmful things, they are harmful for certain thing, but if they are harmful to certain thing, they are useful for something else, right? So instead of using it at the same place, we have to move on, and you have to find out the usefulness of that particular living organism, or the particular type of variation that you can see around that. Okay, so if you can see the diagram which has been shown on the screen, the first one, it includes the fungi, you can say the bacteria. Second one, we have amoeba. Okay, then we have mushroom. After that, the last one that we have are multicellular organisms, right? So we are discussing, we have different kinds of living organisms that are existing, and this lesson is telling us about the diversity forms and how we are classifying them. Now why this classification is important, so that we are aware of each and everything, that the we are aware of the life pattern of all the species that is existing on the earth, because knowing that is very important. We are even aware of that we all are dependent on each other, right? We are dependent on plants for oxygen, plants are dependent on us for carbon dioxide. So this cycle goes on and goes on. If you know the food chain, every one of us, we are interrelated to each other, because we are all dependent on each other. Some or the other place we need their help, right? So we can say that it is not like that ki hame hi, like we can live an independent life. It is not like that. The biodiversity ka living form, that is the difference in the living form that you can see, that is because you can say we all are dependent on each other, and if this variation wouldn't have existed, our survival would be difficult. So this is one of the important thing that we have seen. And as I told you, that whenever it comes to evolution, Charles Darwin, he was the first one who has given us the idea of evolution, and he has mentioned about evolution in his famous book, which is named as the origin of species. What did he named it as? Origin of species. So the species has developed like this way, but now because of the evolution, the species has developed like this way. So this is what the change that you, the this see, evolution is a sudden and a gradual change that is taking place, and evolution is a slow process. It is not like that within a night or within a day evolution takes place. No, it takes many years for this evolution to occur. Okay, so as and when you can see that all the living organism, as and when the time is moving on ahead, what is happening? Human beings are developing some kind of special characters during this time period, right? So the special characters which are being acquired by the human beings, they are called as advanced organism, or we can call them as higher organisms which have been developed. But this post picture, if you can see, this is called as a primitive organism, because this is an ancient design or ancient form of life which has existed on the earth. Okay. After this, we have discussed on biodiversity. Okay. So what is biodiversity? Bio means life or living, and diversity matlab variation. So if you can see the picture, there are different kinds of living variation that we can see. Some animals, they are like they are living inside the water. Some are living on the land. Some are flying in the sky, right? So we know that all the living organisms, they are varying with respect to each other in some or the other aspects. So biodiversity means what? The diversity that is existing in the life form, and common words may we can say that the variety of life form that is existing in a particular region, that is biodiversity. And we all know that we humans, we play a very important role by because we are responsible for balancing the communities which are present in our environment. Okay, so if we are changing the characteristics of anything, that if it is a land, water, climate, anything, if we are changing the characteristic of that land, water and all, what is going to happen? The communities are even going to get affected altogether, right? So here we have a region of mega diversity. Now what is this region of mega diversity? See, just imagine that there is a warm and a humid tropical region of the earth, and this humid tropical region, it is present between the tropic of Cancer and the tropic of Capricorn. Where it is present? Between the tropic of Cancer and the tropic of Capricorn. Now they are like the species or the organism that you see between this tropic of Cancer and tropic of Capricorn, they are rich in diversity of the plant as well as animal life. So they have a rich plant biodiversity as well as rich animal diversity, you can see. Now diversity means variation. So you can see that at that specific region, you will see that there are ample different types of animals and different types of plants which are present in that region. So such region ko we call it as a region of mega diversity. Okay. So, of all the biodiversity that is existing on the planet, you can say that more than half of the you can say more than half of the diversity, or more than half of the organism, they are concentrated in these few countries like Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Mexico, Zaire, Madagascar, Australia, China, India, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So these are some countries where you will see that the biodiversity is concentrated more than half. Okay. After that, we have discussed on the hierarchy of classification. So you need to remember this hierarchy of classification, and there were various researchers who are behind classifying the living organism. So we have Ernest Haeckel. He was trying to classify the living organism into categories in the year 1894. After Ernest Haeckel, then comes Robert Whittaker in the year 1969. He again started trying to classify all the living organism into broad categories. And after Robert Whittaker, we have Carl Boyes, who was modifying the, you can say, category which was given by Robert Whittaker. Okay, so the classification of Whittaker. Now, what Robert Whittaker sir has given the classification system. There we have five different kingdoms. How many? We have five different kingdoms. Can you name them? We have Kingdom Monera, then we have Kingdom Protesta, Kingdom Fungi, Kingdom Plante, and Kingdom Animalia. So these are the five kingdoms which Robert Whittaker sir has proposed or he has given. Okay. Now these groups, they are formed on the basis of their cell structure. Now on the basis of what these five kingdoms are being made? So they are made on the basis of the cell structure, mode, as well as the source of nutrition. Matlab how they are acquiring the required nutrient, and what is the source from where they are getting this nutrition, as well as the body organization. So depending upon this 3-4 criterias that the organisms possess, we have classified these organisms into 5 different kinds of kingdom. We have even studied the characteristics of all the 5 kingdoms, and we have even completed the division of plantae as well, right? So see, so who is who? He was the one who has modified the structure which was given by Robert Whittaker, where the kingdom Monera was modified, or it was divided into archaebacteria, which included all the archae, and eubacteria is for bacteria. So we even use that. Okay. So the most important thing, you should know the hierarchy. How does it goes? First we have kingdom. Kingdom के बाद the division is phylum. Phylum is for animals and division is for plants. Okay, so you should know that you cannot use, like, you cannot tell phylum Thallophyta. No, Thallophyta is not a phylum. It's a division of plant. Okay. After this division and phylum, we have class. Then we have order. Then we have family, genus, and lastly we have this species. Okay. Okay. After that we discussed on kingdom Monera, where you can see this diagram where we have this bacteria and anemone which has been involved here, right? So the organisms which comes under kingdom Monera, it do not have a defined nucleus nor an organelle. So the nucleus which this organism is having, that is not defined, nor the organelles are defined. Okay. As well as they do not show any multicellular body design, so they are unicellular organisms. Okay. So organisms coming under Monera, kingdom Monera, they are not having multicellular body design. And on the other hand, if I tell you, so the organisms, they show diversity based on many other characteristics. So these organisms who are showing this diversity, that is based on many other characteristics. You can say that some of the organisms under kingdom Monera, they are going to have cell wall, some of them will not have the cell wall. Okay, so if they are having or they are not having their cell wall, that is going to have an effect on that, you can say multicellular organism. It can have like different kinds of effect which can be seen on that organism, right? So after that, the mode of nutrition of the organism in this group, okay, of organism, it can either be synthesizing their own food. So the organism that comes under kingdom Monera, you can say that either they are synthesizing their own food through the process of photosynthesis, or if they are synthesizing their own foods, then we call them as autotrophs. Okay. And if they are getting their food from the environment, it means if they are dependent on plants for their food, or if they are dependent on other animals from their food, then we call them as heterotrophic. So mode of organism can either be, they can either be autotrophic or they can either be heterotrophic. Okay. So this group, it includes, like kingdom Monera, it includes bacteria, it has blue green algae which we also call it as cyanobacteria, and lastly we have mycoplasma. So these are the 3 different groups of, you can say, examples of kingdom Monera. Okay. After that, this is the second kingdom, that is kingdom Protista, where kingdom Protista includes many unicellular eukaryotic organism. What kind of organism? Unicellular eukaryotic organisms. So some of these organisms, they even use appendages. Now appendages such as hair-like cilia or whip-like flagella for moving around. तो ये जो organism होते हैं kingdom Protista के अंदर, they have this hair-like cilia, or they even have flap-like whip-like flagella, so that they can move from one place to another and they can move around. And the mode of nutrition, the organisms under, you can say, Protista, the mode of nutrition within them, it can be autotrophic or it can be heterotrophic as well. Okay. So examples are unicellular algae, diatoms, and protozoans. So these are the different examples, you can say, of unicellular algae, diatoms, and protozoans. Okay. So I hope this protozoan is clear. After that, we have studied about the fungi, where we saw that these fungi are heterotrophic eukaryotic organism. What are they? They are heterotrophic eukaryotic organism. Okay. So Some of them, they use decaying organic material as food. What do they use? They use decaying organic material, because I have told you the story of tiffin box which was left inside your bag, right? So if you keep the tiffin box for more than 5 days inside your bag, you will see that on the chapati that you are having, you will see there will be a fungal growth which can be seen there, right? So so fungi, they are going to use what? They are going to use this decaying organic material as their food, and therefore we call them as, what do we call them? We call them as saprotrophs. Okay. See, then some of the fungi, as they are surviving on this decaying organic material, and others are going to require a living protoplasm of a host organism for a food, and we call them as parasites. What do we call them? We call them as parasites. So many of them, they have the capacity to become multicellular organism at certain stage in their life. So some of the fungi, they are going to have that capacity as well, that as and when they are moving in different stages in their life, they're moving ahead, what can happen, they will have that capacity that they are going to get converted to a multicellular organism here. Okay. So they have cell wall. Now fungi ka ye point is very much important. Whenever we are discussing on fungi, the most basic sentence that comes here is that fungi ka cell wall is made up of, like, it has a tough complex sugar. The cell wall of the fungi is made up of what? Tough complex sugar, which we call it as chitin. And the example of this are yeast, molds, and mushroom, which are present on the bark of the trees. Okay. After that, after fungi, see, some fungal species, they live in permanent mutually dependent relationship with blue green algae, that is cyanobacteria. तो कुछ फंगाई है ना जो पूरी तरह से डिपेंडेंट होते हैं साइनोबैक्टीरिया के ऊपर. म्यूचुअली डिपेंडेंट मीन्स fungi is getting the food from cyanobacteria and cyanobacteria is getting something from the fungi. So this is called as a mutually dependent relationship, and such kind of relationship we call it as symbiotic relationship. And this symbiotic life forms, they are called as lichens. What are they called? Lichens. Okay. So we have all seen lichens as the growing, slow growing, large colored patches on the bark of the tree. Lichens कहाँ पे दिखते हैं हमें? This lichens are slow growing, large colored patches which are being seen. Okay. After that, we have seen the characteristics of kingdom plantae, where you have studied that kingdom plantae में जो भी organisms या plants आते हैं, all the plants are non-motile, right? None of the plant moves, so they are non-motile. They make their own food, and hence we call the plants as autotrophs. Okay. So since the plants are making their own food, we call the plants as autotrophs. And how do the plants reproduce? They can either reproduce sexually, and if they are reproducing asexually, then they are going to use vegetative propagation method. Okay? So it can reproduce sexually as well as asexually by using this vegetative propagation method. And plants are multicellular eukaryotes. What are plants? Plants are made up of multiple cells, many cells, and that is why we call them as multicellular. And they are having, you can say, the nucleus is well developed, that is why they are called as eukaryotes as well. So all the plants, they are multicellular eukaryotes. And plants also have a cell wall as well as a large central vacuole which is present in the structure. Okay. And I want you all to know this basic thing, why the plant is able to prepare their own food and why animals cannot. So the basic reason behind this is plants के पास chloroplast होता है. Inside that chloroplast there is a photosynthetic pigment called as chlorophyll which is present. So this is the basic reason why plants are able to perform photosynthesis and why animals cannot perform photosynthesis. Okay, so they have different organelle. Now they means plants. So plants के पास they have different organelle who are helping them with encourage reproduction, support and photosynthesis. Okay, so these are multicellular eukaryotes with cell wall, whereas when it comes to eukaryotes, okay, not eukaryotes, animal cell, animals do not have cell wall. Okay, animals के पास cell wall नहीं होता, but plant cells do have a cell wall. So that is why we call them as multicellular eukaryotes with cell wall. Okay, so plants are autotrophs and they use chlorophyll for photosynthesis. What do the plants use? They use chlorophyll for photosynthesis process. Thus all the plants, they are included in this group. And since the plants and animals, they are most viable form, visible form, you can see there are ample number of plants which are present around us. There are ample number of animals which are present around us, right? So since these plants and animals, they are most visible form which is existing around us, so they are further divided into divisions and phylums, right? And kingdom animalia में अब कौन आएगा? All the animals, they are going to get involved in this kingdom animalia, right? So see, kingdom animalia constitutes all the animals and amongst the five kingdom. Okay, got it? Amongst the five kingdom, the largest kingdom that we are having is the animal kingdom, and animals, they are multicellular eukaryotes. What are they? Multicellular eukaryotes, right? So animals are multicellular eukaryotes. However, like plants, animals do not have chlorophyll, or you can say animals are not having this chlorophyll, nor they don't have this cell wall as well. Okay, so therefore, the members of animal kingdom के जो भी members हैं, they exhibit a heterotrophic mode of nutrition. What do they exhibit? Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And here kingdom animalia has been classified into 10 different subphylum. ठीक है, किंगडम एनिमेलिया को कितने सब फाइलास में हमने डिवाइड किया है? Into 10 different subphyla, and this is based on their body design as well as differentiation pattern. So all this includes, like, kingdom animalia includes all organisms which are multicellular eukaryotes, but they are not having cell wall. Okay, if they are having cell wall, they are included into the plant cell, kingdom plantae. If they're not having cell wall, they're included in the kingdom animalia. Okay, so they are going to be heterotrophs because they are not having chlorophyll. They are not going to prepare their own food, so they are not heterotrophs. They are not autotrophs. They are heterotrophs. Okay, autotrophs means they are dependent on others for their food. After that, we started discussing on this five different division that comes under kingdom plantae. So here we have certain characteristics or level of classification that is existing among the plants, and this classification, it depends upon certain characteristics. So first thing that we need to have a look on is whether the plant body is well differentiated or not. What? Whether the plant body, it is well differentiated or it is not well differentiated. It means whether it is having root, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits and all, or it is not having them. So this is the first level of classification. How are we going to classify the plants? Now the second level of classification is going to be, अगर उनके पास differentiated plants part है, जैसे कि उनके पास root है, stem है, so now you're going to check secondly whether the differentiated plant body, they are having special tissue so that they can transport water and the other substances or not. Okay, so further classification looks at the ability to bear the seeds and whether the seeds are enclosed within the fruits. And the last classification that we can see whether the plants are like the seeds plants are having that ability that they can bear the seeds, or whether they are enclosing the seeds within the fruits. Okay, so this is how these are the three level of classification that we check, and this is how we are dividing the plants into five main division. So the first division that we have is of thallophyta. So thallophyta के अंदर ऐसे सारे plants आते हैं, plants who live in moist and wet places. They are usually found in this thallophyta, and this is why they are staying in this moist places and wet places, because because they don't have this through roots which are present. Because of the absence of the through roots and vascular tissue which has been needed to transport the water and animal, they are found in the moist or wet places because they are not having this through roots. Okay, and you can say that generally they are autotrophic in nature. Autotrophic means they are going to prepare their own food. So all the plants under division thallophyta, they are going to be autotrophic in nature and they're going to manufacture their own food. But there are few members like fungi. They are always going to be dependent on the other sources of food, right? So whatever kind of food they are reserving, like अभी हम भी कभी खाना अगर extra बच जाता है, where do we reserve that? Into the fridge. वैसे same way में plants also reserve some kind of food, and they are reserving it in the form of starch. कैसे reserve करेंगे? In the form of starch. Okay, so if the plants who are not having differentiated body design, they all are going to fall under this group thallophyta. Suppose the plant is not having root, stem, leaves, flowers and fruits, then those plants, they are going to come under this division thallophyta. Okay, so the plants in this group, they are commonly called as algae as well. Okay, and they are predominantly aquatic because they are going to be present in the moist or wet places. And the examples of plants coming under division thallophyta are Spirogyra, Eulothrix, then Cladophora, Alva and Chara. So all the five diagrams have been given here beside. I want you all to have a look and check that they are not having roots, stems and leaves. You will not be able to find it out, right? They are autotrophic in nature, they are making their own food, and they are found in moist places. Why moist places? Because they don't have true roots which are present, as well as there is no xylem and no phloem which are present within them. Okay, after thallophyta, the next division that we have is bryophyta. Next division क्या है? Bryophyta. Now bryophyta को हम बोलते हैं amphibians of the plant kingdom. What are they called? Amphibians of the plant kingdom. Okay, so here in division bryophyta, the plant body, we can differentiate that into, like the plant bodies, it can form stem, it can form a leaf like structure. Okay, so however, you will see that the plants under bryophyta, they are not going to have any specialized tissue. Now if there is a specialized tissue, what will be the function of that specialized tissue? The function will be conduction of the water through xylem and conduction of foods and essential minerals and nutrients through phloem. So here the plants under division bryophyta, they are not going to have this specialized tissue for conducting the water and the substances from one part of the body to another. And the examples of plants coming under bryophyta, it includes moss, which is also called as funaria. Then it also has merchantia, and it is also having an example of riccia. So these are the three different common types of bryophytes which have been available here. And this sentence need to be written down because it is one of the important point which can be asked as an objective. Dash are called the amphibians of the plant kingdom. So you should know that bryophytas are the amphibians. Okay, then the third division that we are having is pteridophyta. Now here the P is silent, so don't read that. You can start reading it from T. So it becomes pteridophyta. Okay, so all the plants that come under this division pteridophyta, here the plant body is going to get differentiated into the root, stem and leaves, and they are even going to have specialized tissue so that they can conduct water as well as food and minerals from one part of the body to another. Okay, it is having specialized tissue means the specialized tissue is the xylem and phloem. Okay, so you need to remember that now. So some examples of the plants coming under pteridophyta are Marceliae, ferns and horsetails. Okay, and you will see that some of the reproductive organs of the plant, they hide their reproductive parts. Okay, so those plants who are having this hidden reproductive organ, we call those group of plant as cryptogams. What do we call? we call them as cryptogams. And another thing that we have is phanerogams. So if you see that the plants are having well differentiated reproductive part, ठीक है. क्रिप्टोगैम्स में क्या था, plants का reproductive organs were hidden, so they are called as cryptogams. But if the plants are having well differentiated reproductive part which can be seen, and alternatively they can make the seeds, then we call such group of plants as phanerogams. Okay, so seeds जो है, how do we get the seed जो है, that is the result of sexual reproduction process that takes place in the plant. So they consist of the embryo along with the stored food, which is going to assist for the initial growth of the embryo that takes place during germination. Now we all are aware of when the seed germinates, right? तो germination के time पे क्या होगा, you will see that there is an initial growth of the embryo which has been supported because of this. Okay, so this group is further classified. Now pteridophyta ko we can further classify it as I told you that seeds are the result of sexual reproduction, right? So we can classify this pteridophyta again into two different groups, if the seeds are naked or whether it is enclosed in fruits. So this is going to give us two different groups, that is gymnosperms and angiosperms. Now gymnosperms to hai, that is been derived from two Greek words. Gymno means snake and sperm means seeds. Okay, so naked seeds, that is the meaning of the gymnosperm. Okay, so the plants of this gymnospermic group, they bear naked seeds and they are going to be perennial. Perennial means they are going to be annually available. Okay, they are usually perennial, they are evergreen and woody as well. And the example of plants coming under gymnosperms are pines and deodar. So if you can see here, you have an example of pinus, which is also called as a pine, and this is cycas. Okay, after gymnosperm we have angiosperms. So angiosperm is again derived from a Greek word. Angio means covered and sperm means seeds. Okay, so if the seeds are covered, then that all such plants come under this angiosperms. Okay, so angiosperms को हम flowering plant भी बोलते हैं, because the seeds they develop inside the ovary and after that it is going to get modified and it is going to become a fruit. Okay, so plant का embryo जो है, plant embryos in seeds, they have structure and we call that structure as cotyledon. So cotyledons, if you can see the seed leaves, because in many instances we see that the leaves they emerge out and they become green as and when the seed is germinating. Okay, so angiosperm ko we can further divide it into two groups on the basis of number of cotyledons which are present inside the seed. So if the plant with a seed, if they are having one cotyledon, then we call that plant as monocotyledonous plant, or we call them as monocots. And if plant with seed they are having two cotyledons, then we call them as dicots or dicotyledonous plant. Okay, so the example has been shown beside. This is the example of monocot and this is an example of dicot which has been seen. Okay, now after these things we have discussed, like today we are going to discuss on kingdom Animalia. Now we all know kingdom Animalia is going to have all the animals which are being included here, right? So these are the organisms which are eukaryotic, multicellular and heterotrophic. How are the animals or the organisms which are included under kingdom Animalia? They are going to be eukaryotic, they are going to be multicellular and they are going to be heterotrophic, because we don't have chlorophyll. Like that way, animals also do not have chlorophyll in their chloroplast, and that is the reason we cannot make our own food. Similarly, animals cannot make their own food. We are always dependent on plants and animals for our food, and that is why they are called as heterotrophic. Okay, as well as animalia के अंदर जो सारे organisms आएंगे, they are not going to have cell wall present in their cell. Okay, and most animals are mobile. Mobile means they keep moving from one place to another. Now why there is a need of moving from one place to another to the animals? Because animals have to search for the food, they have to search for the shelter for their mates, and that is the reason animals keep moving from one place to another. Okay, and we can classify this animals which come under kingdom Animalia on the extent and the type of body design that they are having. The differentiation can be found out here, and we have 10 different phylums which has come up based on the body design and the differentiating pattern that they are having. Okay, but before starting the exact phylums, I would like to show you all the chart that you have to go through this, and after that only you're going to start studying the kingdom Animalia. Okay, so see, we have a cellular, all the animals have two different levels of organization. One is cellular level of organization and the other one is tissue level of organization. Animals को कैसे classify किया हमने? Cellular level of organization, and the second thing that we have is tissue level of organization. Okay, now cellular level of organization, we can see that uh, in phylum Porifera, which is the first phylum that comes under kingdom Animalia. So phylum Porifera is going to have cellular level of organization, and this tissue level of organization, they can again be divided into three, where we have coelomate, pseudocoelomate, and no body cavity between the epidermis and the gastrodermis. So you can say pseudocoelomate matlab false body cavity, coelomate matlab it is present, the body cavity is present, and one thing will be no body cavity which is existing between the epidermis and the gastrodermis. Okay, so Coelenterata and Platyhelminthes, these are two different phylums, right? If you are aware of, Coelenterata and Platyhelminthes are such animals who are not having any body cavity which is existing between the epidermis and the gastroepidermis. And Nematoda, they have this pseudocoelom. Pseudocoelom means false body cavity. Okay, so nematodes have false body cavity, and this coelomate is again divided into two. Firstly, you can say that there is a mesodermal cells from a single cell during the growth of the embryo. What do we get? We get a mesodermal cell. Now from where do we get this mesodermal cell? From a single cell which is obtained during the growth of the embryo. And here we have different phylums like Annelida, Mollusca, and Arthropoda. And another type of coelomates that we have here, you will see that the coelom formed from the pouches which are pinched off from the endoderm. How is the coelom formed? From the pouches which are pinched off from the endoderm. Okay, and now again we can divide them into two parts, whether they are having notochord, it means whether the notochord is present, or there is no notochord, that is notochord is absent. Okay, so no notochord and notochord present. So here if there is no notochord, then we have echinodermata as a phylum further, and if the notochord is present, then we have chordata as a phylum which is present. Okay, now this chordata is again divided into two, that is, if the notochord is present at the least larval form but are very rudimentary. And second thing, the notochorda is replaced by the vertebral column in adult. What did I said? कि जो notochord present है वो vertebral column से replace हो चुका है adults में. So here we have vertebrata to discuss, and where if you can say that the notochord which is present, that is at the least larval form. Okay, there we have this protochordata, and this vertebrata is again divided into six different classes. So cyclostomata, it has all the jawless, eel-like circular mouth, scales, skinny skin, all this type of animals, they come under this class, that is cyclostomata. Okay, then the second class that we have is Pisces. So here you can see that the exoskeleton of the scales, that is exoskeleton of the bone, cartilage, breathing, they're all breathing through their gills. So this comes under the class Pisces. Okay, then we have amphibia ka class, where you will see that the gills in larvae, their lungs in most adult, and slimy skin. These are the characteristics, and all the animals having these characteristics, they fall under this class called as amphibia. Okay. Now after amphibia, we have reptilia to discuss, where we have exo, like the animals are going to have exoskeleton of scale. They are laying eggs outside the water, so they all are considered under this reptilia itself. Okay, then we have apes, where the organism is going to have exoskeleton which is made up of feathers. They are going to lay their egg outside the water, and the flight is possible. So all such animals, they are going to come under this apes. And the last class that we have under vertebrata, that is the sixth class, is mammalia, where we also belong to. Okay, so our exoskeleton is made up of hair, right? So that is the reason we are mammalia. This is one of the characteristics. We have external ears which are present, right? We all have external ears, and mostly giving birth to the living one, young ones. Okay, so we are even able to give birth to our young ones, right? So we come under this class mammalia, that and that comes under this vertebrata, phylum vertebrata. Now this vertebrata has classes, which includes mammalia as the sixth class, and we human being belong to this mammalia wala class. Okay, so before starting studying about the characteristics, you have to go through this chart first, understand the chart properly first, and if possible try to draw this chart, like go through this, study this whole chart 2 to 3 times. After that, try making it by not watching it, like as you have understood by watching it 2 to 3 times, you have to try making it by yourself. And if you face any difficulty, you can check it and you can do it, but this chart should be clear in your mind ki how the division takes place. Animals ka level of organization is of two type. One is cellular level organization and tissue level organization. And then how the 10 phylums and the 6 classes of vertebrata are further divided, you will get that idea from this chart itself. Okay, now let's start with the first phylum of that comes under kingdom Animalia, that is phylum Porifera. Okay, so the word Porifera, it means organisms with holes. So the organism who are having holes inside their body, we call those organisms as, like, that is the meaning of this Porifera itself. Porifera means animals or the organisms with holes. That is Porifera. Okay, after Porifera, this Porifera means animals or the organisms who are having holes in their body. They are going to be non-motile animal. Non-motile means they are not going to move. Non-motile means what? They are not going to move from one place to other. So they are going to be a non-motile animal, and they are going to be attached to a solid support like a rock. Okay, तो ये rocks पे attached हो सकते हैं. Okay, now there are holes or pores all over their body. As I told you that organism with holes, they come under this phylum Porifera, right? So the organism is going to have holes as well as pores which will be present all over the body. If you can see this cycin, Euplactella, Spongilla, these are some of the organism that comes under phylum Porifera. Okay, so this leads to, because they are having holes and pores all over their body, it leads to a canal system. What does it leads to? A canal system that helps in circulating the water throughout the body. Okay, so because they are having holes and pores, it leads to a canal system within the body, and through this canal system you will see that the water is going to circulate throughout the body, as well as through this holes only it is going to bring back the food and the oxygen for them. Okay, so this animals, that is organism with holes, this animals we are going to cover them with a hard outer layer of skeleton. How are we going to cover them? With a hard outer side layer or skeleton से covered होगा इनका पूरा body, and the body design is going to involve very minimal differentiation and division into tissues. So the body division, if you can see of this animals, you can say that इनका पूरा जो body design है, it has minimal differentiation as well as division into the tissues. Okay, so they are commonly called as sponges, and they are mainly found in the marine habitat. Where can we find this organism with holes? We can find them inside the marine habitat, and we call them as sponges. And some examples are been shown here. So you should know at least 3 to 4 examples, two at least तो याद होना ही चाहिए, of each and every phylum. Okay, as well as 4 characteristics of each phylum should be at least known to you all. आपको याद क्या रखना है कि सारे फाइलम्स के अंदर कौन से टाइप के एनिमल्स को डिफरेंशिएट किया गया है. ओके, सो मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट इज remembering at least 4 characteristics as well as 2 examples. So when you write 4 characteristics and 2 examples, you are almost knowing 2 marks question for each and every phylum. Okay, even for 3 marks you can write this much. Then the second phylum of this kingdom Animalia that we are having, is phylum Coelenterata, which is also called as Cnidaria. So you should not get confused if they are asking you about Cnidaria or if they are asking you about Coelenterata. It is one and the same thing. Coelenterata को ही हम Cnidaria ही बोलते हैं. Okay, so the animals which comes under this Coelenterata, phylum Coelenterata, these animals are living in water. Now the first porifera, that is organism with holes, they are found in marine like they are marine animals, right? So Coelenterata के अंदर जो animals आते हैं, these animals are going to be living in water. Okay, and they show more body design differentiation. Can you see the differentiation? This is sea anemone and this is an hydra. Can you see how their body is differentiated? They are having tentacles, here they are having their mouth, this is the foot, this is the gastrovascular cavity, this is the epidermis that they are having. And if you can see the sea anemone, you can see the tentacles which are present in the center, right? So this organisms, they show more body design differentiation, as well as there is a cavity in the body. What do they have? They have cavity which is present inside their body. If you can see the structure of the hydra, there you can see the labeling as gastrovascular cavity. So inside this animals, that is animals under Coelenterata, they show this cavity which is present inside them. Okay, now the body of these animals, they are made up of two layers of cell. So one makes up the cell on the outside of the body. Okay, what happens? One makes up cells on the outside of the body and other makes the inner lining of the body. So एक layer of cell is going to make the outer part and the another layer, inner lining, is going to make the inner part. Okay, so some of the species, they are going to live in colonies which are called as corals. What do we call them? Colonies, and these colonies are also called as corals, while others are going to show a solitary like span, that is in hydra. If you can see this hydra shows a solitary like span within them. Okay, so jellyfish also is a type of animal that comes under Coelenterata phylum itself. Jellyfish and sea anemones, these are common examples of the animals that comes under phylum Coelenterata. After that we have this phylum Platyhelminthes. Now Platyhelminthes mein we have Planaria as the best example, liver fluke and tapeworm. These are the three different examples of the animals that come under phylum Platyhelminthes. Okay, so the animals under Platyhelminthes, the body of these animals in this group is far more complexly designed than in the two or the other groups we have considered so far. So now we have seen Porifera and Cnidaria, right? So when we compare with both the phylums, you will see that इनका body design जो है, that is much complex than that their designs. Okay, so the body is bilaterally symmetrical, meaning that the left and the right half of the body, they have the same design. Now the animals that come under this Platyhelminthes, the animals are going to have what? They are going to have a bilateral symmetry. Bilaterally symmetrical means what? If I am cutting the animals in the center, the right side of the body as well as the left side of the body, they are going to have the same design. Okay, and there are three layers of the cell from which the differentiated tissue can be made. So the differentiated tissue that we are having, we can make it from how many layers of cell? We can make it from three layers of cell, and which is why such animals, they are called as triploblastic. What do we call them? We call them as triploblastic layer because they are made up of three layers of the cell. Okay, so this triploblastic layer, it allows outside and inside body lining as well as some organs to be made. What do they allow? Outside as well as inside body lining, so that they can make some organs. Okay, so there is some degree of tissue formation. So here, because there are some outer and inner linings which can be seen, and that is making the organs, so you will see that tissue formation takes place because from tissue only we get the organ, right? A group of cell, it forms the tissue, a group of tissue forms the organ. So if there is a tissue formation, there only the organs can be made, right? So however, you will see that there is no through internal lining. ठीक है, क्या नहीं है यहाँ पे? They are not having any internal body cavity, and body cavity is also called as coelom, which is well developed organ can be accommodated. So what are they having? They are not having any true internal body cavity, or you can say coelom, and in which we can keep this well developed organism. Okay, so the body of the animals that come under this Platyhelminthes, it is flattened dorsoventrally, meaning from top to bottom. If you can see, they are flatworms. See, platyhelminthes को हम flatworms भी बोलते हैं, because all the animals they that comes under this platyhelminthes, they are going to be flat from top to bottom. Okay, so which is why these animals are also called as flatworms. So if you can see the diagram of planaria, it is a flat animal. Liver fluke is also looking flat, right? Tapeworm is also flat. Okay, so they are either free living or parasitic. कैसे होते हैं ये animals? The animals under platyhelminthes, they are either going to be a free living animal or they are going to be parasitic. And some examples are free living animals like planarians, जो आप typically देखते हो घर पे, right? That is a planaria. So planarians are free living animal. Then we have certain parasitic animals like liver fluke, okay, and tapeworm also. These are parasitic animals that we are having. So I hope the characteristics of platyhelminthes is bit clear to you all. Okay, after platyhelminthes we have nematoda to discuss. So if you can see, Ascaris and Wucheria, these are the two examples of nematoda, that is Escalmenthes. Now nematoda is also known as Escalmenthes phylum, so you should know that. Okay, so the nematode body is also bilaterally symmetrical and triploblastic. Triploblastic means they have three layers: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. And bilateral symmetrical means if I cut them, I am going to get the right as well as the left halves, they are going to be same. So nematode ka body is going to be bilaterally symmetrical, as well as it is triploblastic, that is it is made up of three layers. Okay, however, the body is cylindrical rather than flattened. You will see that the body of this nematoda, okay, that is Ascaris and Wucheria, if you can see the diagram, their body is cylindrical rather than flattened. And there are tissues but there are no real organs. ठीक है, टिश्यूज तो होंगे एस्कैरिस के अंदर, विचेरिया के अंदर, बट यू विल सी दैट देर आर no real organs, although a sort of body cavity or pseudocoelom is present. Pseudocoelom means false cavity. So either a body cavity can be present or a false cavity can be present here. Okay. So these are very familiar as parasitic worms causing diseases such as the worms causing elephantiasis, filarial worms, or the worms in the intestine. So in the intestine we have this Ascaris. Okay, so these are parasitic worms that you can say that comes under this phylum Nematoda. Okay, so elephantiasis किससे होता है? Filarial worms से, and the intestine worms, they are roundworms or pinworms. So such examples are of this nematode phylum. Okay. Now Annelida we are going to start in the next part, otherwise it will be like, since all the characteristics are somewhat similar, it is going to be difficult for y'all. So that is the reason I'm telling y'all, go with the structure of the animal that has been given, because depending on the structure, if you see, you're going to get the most of the idea ki what all top points can be covered under those like what all characteristics can be written there. Okay, so we are going to start with phylum Annelida in the next part, and next part I guess it will be the last part for this lesson if possible. Okay, so we have Annelida to discuss, we have Arthropoda, we have Mollusca, we have Echinodermata, Protochordata, and Vertebrata. So these are the other six different kinds of phylum that comes under kingdom Animalia. So I guess we need two more parts, because Vertebrata has six more classes to discuss on, right? So we have Cyclostomata, we have Pisces, then the third class is Amphibia, fourth one is Reptalia, fifth one is Ave, and the sixth one is Mammalia. Okay, so we are going to discuss on the six different types of classes that comes under phylum Vertebrata, which is the last phylum of kingdom Animalia. Okay, so after discussing on the six classes of phylum Vertebrata, we are going to discuss on nomenclature in short. Okay, and after that there will be a summary of the lesson that we have discussed till now. Okay, so after discussing on this summary, we are going to discuss on the six questions which have been given here. like what are the advantages of classifying the organisms, how would you choose between the two characteristics which we can use it for developing a hierarchy in classification. Then we will be discussing the basis for grouping the organisms into five kingdoms, what are the major divisions in plantae and what is the basis for this division. Okay, then the fifth question is, how are the criteria for deciding the divisions in plants, they differ from the criteria for deciding the subgroups among animals. And lastly we have this point, like question like explain how animals in vertebrata they are classified into further subgroups. So we have six different classes that we are going to explain it here. Okay, so I hope that whatever phylums we have discussed in this part is very much clear to you all. Now the rest of the phylums and the classes and the questions to discuss, we are going to continue that in the next part of this lesson, diversity in living organisms. Okay, so thank you everyone.